something big is happening out west again. Alberta is making moves that have everyone in Ottawa on edge. And if what's quietly unfolding behind closed doors is true, then Canada could be standing at the edge of a brand new political storm. Now, let's start with what we do know. Danielle Smith isn't backing down. Not after months of tension, not after repeated warnings from Ottawa, and certainly not after Prime Minister Mark Carney's latest remarks about national unity. In her latest statement, she didn't hold back. She said Alberta is taking control of its own future. And just like that, the entire political landscape shifted overnight. But what does taking control really mean here? Is it just about energy policy or something much bigger? Here's where things get interesting. Sources inside Edmonton are saying that Alberta's government has been drafting a series of sovereignty-oriented policies that would, in practice, give the province more control over taxation, natural resources, and even immigration. Ottawa's response? Total silence so far. Not a word from Carney, not even the usual press release trying to calm things down. It's like the federal government doesn't know what to do next. And maybe, just maybe, they don't. Because this time, it's not just about political rhetoric. Alberta's moves are being backed by business leaders, energy executives, and a growing number of regular citizens who feel Ottawa has gone too far. They see Carney's policies on climate, energy, and federal taxation as a direct threat to Alberta's prosperity. And Smith? She's turning that frustration into action. In one powerful moment, she said, "We're not asking for permission anymore." And that single line, simple as it sounds, has shaken the foundations of Canadian politics. Now, let's look at the context. Mark Carney's federal government has been pushing a national green transformation strategy, massive investments in renewable energy, strict emissions caps, and a push to phase out oil sands production by 2040. Sounds ambitious, right? But to Alberta, it sounds like economic suicide. The province's oil and gas sector has powered Canada for decades, and now Ottawa's plan threatens to cut it off at the knees. So when Danielle Smith says Alberta is taking control of its future, she's talking about more than politics. She's talking about survival. But here's where things take a darker turn. There are whispers, yes, whispers, that Alberta's latest policies could quietly pave the way for something that hasn't been seriously discussed since the 1980s. The idea of true autonomy. Not independence, not yet, but a legal, economic, and political wall that makes Alberta almost function like a separate entity inside Canada. And some believe Smith's government is already testing that idea. Reports, again unconfirmed, suggest Alberta is working on a new interprovincial trade agreement with Saskatchewan, bypassing federal oversight altogether. Others claim there's been quiet communication with certain U.S. energy officials under the Trump administration, discussing future oil export routes that don't depend on federal approval. If any of that's true, then Ottawa has a major problem on its hands. Because once provinces start acting like countries inside a country, it's nearly impossible to stop. And yet, something about this time feels different. You can feel it in the tone of Alberta's legislature, the defiance in Smith's voice, the quiet unease in Ottawa. It's like everyone knows this isn't just another round of political sparring. There's a sense, an unspoken understanding, that the country is being pulled in two very different directions. Now, what's really fueling this? Part of it is frustration, no doubt. But there's also fear that Ottawa's control is tightening, fear that Alberta's economy is being sacrificed for a federal agenda that doesn't reflect the realities of the West. And for many Albertans, it's not even about politics anymore. It's about dignity. They feel unheard, dismissed, controlled by people who don't understand how their province actually works. And Danielle Smith has tapped directly into that sentiment. She's framing Alberta's defiance not as rebellion, but as reclamation. She says this is about restoring what belongs to the province, its resources, its wealth, and its right to decide its own destiny. That message, simple and emotional, is spreading fast. You can hear it in rural coffee shops, energy boardrooms, and even university halls, this quiet but growing conviction that Alberta must chart its own path, no matter what Ottawa says. And what's Ottawa doing in response? Strangely, very little. Carney, known for his calm technocratic style, has made only vague remarks about cooperation and national balance. But insiders say his team is deeply divided. Some want to challenge Alberta's defiance head-on, through courts, through funding cuts, through political pressure. Others warn that such a move could trigger a full-scale provincial backlash. Imagine that, Canada's federal government hesitating to confront a province out of fear of what might come next. And then there's the U.S. angle. Under Trump, Washington's energy policy has shifted dramatically toward domestic production and cross-border deals with friendly regions. Alberta's oil fits perfectly into that strategy. Which raises the question, could Alberta be quietly preparing for a more direct economic relationship with the United States? No one's saying it outright, of course. But as one analyst put it recently, if Alberta ever wanted to function independently, it would start by building its own energy alliances. And that's exactly what it looks like they're doing. Now, think about the timing. Alberta's budget is stronger than it's been in years, driven by high oil prices and surging demand. The province's finances are healthy, and it's already created new provincial agencies to handle investment, trade, and innovation, all areas traditionally managed at the federal level. Individually, these moves might seem harmless. But together, they start to form a pattern. A pattern that says Alberta is building a system designed to stand on its own. And that's what makes this moment so tense. Because Ottawa can't publicly admit how serious this has become without risking national panic. But behind the scenes, every federal ministry is watching Alberta closely. They know that if Smith's defiance succeeds, if she actually manages to give Alberta more independence, then Saskatchewan, and maybe even Manitoba or BC could follow. That's the domino effect no one in Ottawa wants to talk about. Now here's the million-dollar question. How far is Danielle Smith willing to go? Her supporters say she's fighting for fairness. Her critics say she's playing with fire. But either way, she's become the voice of a movement that's growing stronger every day. A movement that doesn't want to destroy Canada, but wants to rebuild it on different terms, terms where the West finally calls the shots. And that's the part that should make every Canadian pay attention. Because whether you agree with Smith or not, you can't deny the emotion behind this. It's raw. It's real. It's the voice of a province that feels left behind, and it's speaking louder than ever. In a way, what we're seeing isn't just political. It's cultural. Alberta's sense of identity has always been tied to freedom, hard work, and independence. So as we watch this unfold, one thing's becoming clear: Canada is entering uncharted territory. Ottawa's power is being tested like never before, and Alberta is standing firm, daring the rest of the country to stop it.